Hi, I'm Arthur, and since I've been constructing many different weird-ass gangs in Necromunda lately, I've realized just how represented the abhuman species of the universe are in that game, which made me realize I'd never really covered them before on this channel. At least in its own video. Like, sequentially, I've covered them from time to time, but I don't think I've ever really talked about them here, though I could be wrong. I've been doing this for a little bit too long now. So, I guess it's time. But before we do, what even is an abhuman? What makes them tick, and why do I think about long-shanks so much? Well, the answer to all of these questions will be answered individually, but the important one as well, an abhuman is a strain of humanity. You could call them a subspecies if you want. See, humanity has existed on planets away from Earth for quite some time, and as survival of the fittest dictates, the ones who are more apt to survive on said planet tend to reproduce more often. Thus, you have weird alternate humans. Now, it usually takes a lot more time than like just 10,000 years, but I don't know, there's just psychic bullshit and mutations going around, so mutations and evolution probably just happens faster. A lot of these are introduced just to allow the weird side species of each race in Warhammer Fantasy to exist in 40k. So we will touch on those and kind of discuss the parallels as we go, but think of them as a type of mutation to humanity that has existed rather than their own bespoke race like they are in fantasy. Now, the big thing to know here is that due to their close relation to humanity and relative stability in terms of showing mutation, they're allowed to exist most of the time. But with all this being said, let's get into the list itself with the one you all know probably the most, or at least the one that's most represented as they are probably the most needed, the Navigators. These guys are awesome and important. They are also probably the one abhuman species responsible for the most deaths in this entire list. Probably more than the entire Horus Heresy, if I'm being honest. To be honest, we still keep them around because we need them. See, the humble Navigator was selectively bred to create a stable strain of abhuman that, through the use of a third eye, can see into the warp in limited amounts, while not exploding into goop or tendrils. Basically, we needed individuals who could see the light of the Emperor from the Astronomicon and could look at charts by matching the way the light's angle reflects off of whatever yada 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 space bullshit. Conveying this information to their captain, the reason these guys kill a lot of people is if a navigator is incorrect in their interpretation, whoopsie poopsie, the best case scenario is a fucking crash that usually kills the entire crew. The worst, probably lost in the warp for all eternity, doomed to forever be tortured by demons. Yeah, not exactly pleasant. They are, still, though, a necessary component of modern-day faster-than-light travel, as without them, we wouldn't be able to get far. Hell, it's established that, in a few books, sure, a particularly powerful psyker could do the same thing, but usually to a degree of strain and danger that would make them usually die and also be less accurate. They are also prone to mutation over their life because as they interact with the warp, they are interacting with the warp, and if you don't know anything about the warp, congratulations, you now do. It is one of the things you don't like interacting with, and having to look directly into it is kind of like inviting demons to, you know, have a party in your spirit, and not exactly fun, though usually it just ends with them looking more like fish, so that's fun. One last thing before we move on, each navigator has their own method of focusing into the warp with their third eye. Some paint pictures, some meditate, some need sacrifices. It's kind of all over the place. Each of them have their own process, and the ones that have the easiest to understand and deal with process are usually given better roles in, like, different fleets. The next abhuman to discuss is the one that if you don't really know much about navigators, you know a lot about these guys. The second most represented abhuman, and that is the ogryn.
Oh, you think I'm losing? No, bitch, we losing. This how we gonna do this. Roses are red, weapons against me won't prosper. With this sacred treasure I summon, Big Raga, the op stopper. Free Gojo, nigga.
Oh, bitches, Big Maho.
What the fuck? Who the fuck let this nigga in the function?
What is there to even say about these certified wide loads? Born to high-gravity planets where only the biggest and the strongest could exist long enough to have children. And no, we do not truly know what a lady ogryn looks like at this point, and the concept both intrigues and terrifies me. They have created literal ogres, which, to be fair, that is the space they are supposed to occupy in that 40k to fantasy ratio I was talking about before. They are huge, standing as tall if not taller than a space marine, being as strong if not stronger than a space marine, and being as smart if not smarter than your average golden retriever. These dudes are not really that hard to understand. They are a blunt instrument used by the Imperial Guard to beat people over the head with, and I mean that in the most literal way possible. They often can only be recruited into the Guard if they pass a simple test of intelligence, which is, can you lace up your boots unaided and spell your own name? Well, congratulations, you are now a part of the military. You also have boneheads, which get a chip in their head that augments their intelligence, which are basically the squad sergeants of ogryns and kind of the leader caste. But I should note their intelligence is not really boosted up that much. Well, on the topic of the Imperial Guard, I gotta say, next Abhuman, I fucking love the beastmen. They are yet another stable variant of Abhuman that just kind of popped up, but their deal is a bit weirder. Once again, to define weird, the range is, oh, this dude has purple eyes, to thalidomide baby who has been blasting warpstone-laced Tren and D-ball this entire time. The humble beastman occupies the latter end of that spectrum, as it is implied that for some reason they are intrinsically linked with chaos, but can still have a relatively okay and loyal military service. Carrying the traits of usually goats, but also men, the beastmen also have a very good tolerance to combat stims, to the point where in Necromunda, it's a rule that due to the years of usage with no major drawbacks, they are conditioned to perform at the peak of their existence when blasting friends on. You know, that thing that we give to Eversor assassins? Yeah, it's pretty fun. They have a tendency to be used as meat shields, but also have a reputation for defecting and fighting for chaos because they have been treated poorly, which, you know, I feel like if we up the standard of quality, we wouldn't have as many defections, but like, who knows? They also have a really fun model range to use for Necromunda or just kill team. While we are kind of on Necromunda, we should at least touch upon them because they are technically recognized as an Abhuman strain, and that is the Goliaths of Necromunda. Starting off as vat-grown clones who are made to do hard labor, the Goliaths are as strong and physically tough as a space marine, but are so unstable that a normal Goliath at best dies at the age of 20. Now, they were supposed to be born sterile, but due to, I don't know, nature finding a way, Goliaths were able to actually give birth to a naturally born Goliath. Now, these nat-born Goliaths are actually able to live up to the age of like 60 and are very intelligent, not docile, and can really deal with other Goliaths and amp them up. They're supposed to be slaves, but due to these nat-born Goliaths popping up more and more, they were able to, you know, transition that docile nature to the disposition not unlike the average pitbull named Princess. They love muscles, and if the Imperium finds out about them, they may not enjoy an entire clone race of superhumans not being used for military service. So Necromunda might be in a bit of trouble if that happens. Nightsiders are next on the list, and they are kind of, okay, weird.
You gonna eat those Twinks?
That's not what they're... You know what? Help yourself.
Basically, if I had to describe them in simplest terms, it'd basically be just bat people, but that is a bit of a narrow way to look at them. Basically, nightsiders are a subspecies of humanity that have either evolved on a planet with either no light or they've had to live underground without much light to go off of, thus giving them a mix of traits that are adapted to the dark. I suppose the black eyes of Nostromo might imply that the people of Nostromo are on the nightsider spectrum, but wait, actually, like, I guess maybe? Sort of? Well, there's probably more more to it, but let's just not confuse the lorehounds out there. They already go on Reddit a bit too much to confirm half of the shit I say. And finding out that I just said it off the top of my head in a form of wild speculation doesn't really seem like a good enough justification for them. And also, Reddit is bad for your soul. Shit's like a reverse Krabby Patty. But yeah, the nightsiders have either huge eyes that can process far more light than you'd expect, or no eyes and their ears are so developed that they can actually use a form of echolocation. They often have ghoulish traits for skin, such as like pale or even translucent, but in general they are mistrusted by damn near everyone because they are inconsistent at best and they are also just fucking man-bats. Okay, next we talk about the anti-ogryns.
Well, thanks to no gravity in space, my spine stretched, and I am now a confident 6'3".
A species of human that evolved on a planet with low gravity, or they just evolved completely in space and thus ended up growing incredibly tall and thin. Now, I don't know the use of these individuals as well. They are apparently frail, like very frail, but I guess having someone who can reach tall shelves is good. Yeah, the long-shanks, they're fun. And I'm not just saying that because that one long-shanks lady that most of Cannibalis drew was pretty perfect in every single way. Don't fucking at me. But I think they are pretty fun. I doubt they would ever get any models, as I guess it would just be like a Sidonian Scatros, but for the Imperial Guard and not on stilts. Yeah. Okay, let's get into the more long-winded ones because I do think it is kind of important to discuss abhumans that are abhumans, but also the ones that have been legally considered xenos, and we don't even consider them abhumans anymore. So let's talk about the squats.
He's a boogie boogie bugle boy of Company B.
The squats are awesome. They are the dwarves of the universe, and back in the day, that's kind of all they were. The Imperial Guard offshoot that carries a bunch of axes, hammers, Imperial Guard specialized trains and tanks and what have you. But as the lore was expanded, they were sort of morphed coming from the clone skeins of the supercomputer known as the Votanic Core now, and that's kind of why they're basically just Xenos. The squats, or rather the kin from the Leagues of Votan, as they prefer, are short and incredibly resilient. Essentially, they are short because they take up less space in the ships that they fly around in the universe in. They are dense and muscular to perform any task necessary to survive, such as resource gathering, and they are incredibly quick to offend because they're dwarfs. The Votanic cores these factions have spit out randomly generated clones that have beneficial traits mixed up in order to provide a bit of diversity. But when a core dies, it is kind of seen as an apocalyptic situation for the grand majority of the kindred that is under them. Trillions of databanks are lost, and the clones that come out have to be created by the kin after this, and they're kind of inferior. Just the ingenuity that the kin are able to put in is not nearly as strong as a thousands-of-year-old supercomputer. The individuals who lost their Votan are usually what the Imperium refer to as squats, because they hunker down on a planet and just kind of go to town, really, doing the same shit that the Votan do, but on like a larger scale. Mining and collecting resources the old-fashioned way with pickaxes and hammers to preserve their way of life as best they can. Their classification has been debated, but a lot of the time they do their best to try and be as alien as possible to humanity, because if humanity thinks that they have any amount of jurisdiction over the kindred, they will likely wage a war for their insane resources, because they do have an STC. Like, that's what the core is. The Votanic core is just this massive standard template construct that can 3D print damn near anything. So, yeah, no, if the Mechanicum found out about this forever war, just forever war. No bones about it. It's just war forever. So that's the reason why they are Xenos. But in truth, they are genuinely just a weird abhuman clone race. They also have actual literal AI constructs known as Ironkin, and I love them dearly. My Steeljacks are my best friends. Okay, getting close to the end here, so let's talk about the rattlings. I low-key wish that you could field an entire rattling army. I know it's like almost impossibly rare to see more than just a squad or two, or maybe a chef, but I don't know, maybe mix in some ogryns too, as canonically ogryns and rattlings kind of get together. I don't know, it's just a very natural friendship. A rattling is a legally distinct halfling, and a halfling is a legally distinct hobbit. They are probably the shortest of all the abhumans, and are also pretty damn close to the most chaotic. Well, not that way, the normal way. Rattlings hail from Orn's world, mostly, a planet well known for being absolutely fucked up by chaos invasions on the regular, which if you know anything about the moot from Warhammer Fantasy, yeah, getting fucked up is kind of in its genetic code. Rattlings are interesting, as they have a natural predilection towards hedonism, but not in a way that would be considered heretical. They just like themselves good food, some good drink, and are naturally good chefs. Much like with most abhumans, they are often in the service of the Imperial Guard, being shamed for the sin of their birth, I guess. But my favorite part about that is rattling chefs are often brought on to drastically improve morale, as they can turn a tin can, a couple cockroaches, a butter knife, and some lard into what is approximating foie gras in this setting, which I don't even know how he did it, but he did it. Shout out to the one named chef character you can get in Necromunda, Big B Crumb, who is such a good chef. He has a chance to heal up your dudes in between games, but besides that point, outside of them being master chefs, their keen eye for detail and range translates into something magical. Them being the Imperium's best natural snipers. Never given the best gear, but by God, they have a talent for hit and run tactics. These guys go off on their own in small kill teams of specialists, usually led by a fixer of some sort, with a job to destabilize and murder the living hell out of whatever they see. If they are lucky, they have an ogryn with them who can help out by smashing the living piss out of whatever gets close enough to them that they can't do sniping properly. The rattlings have such a breadth of lore, especially since they got a model refresh recently, and I do think that I want to cover them more in depth in their own video, but I don't know, I'll hold off on that for now. I want to do the generalist video first, but yeah. For now, we have to talk about something that I've kind of held off for a while now, so yeah, let's talk about this. I have a simple question for you all. You like cats? Okay, so this is such a topic to me, but I really wanted to talk about it for reasons I'm certain all of you could probably understand to some degree. The felinids are a race of literal cat people. We don't know what they look like. We don't know anything about them other than they exist, and you know what? More power to them. They have been one hell of a meme in the 40k community since they have been brought up, and in my limited research, I can kind of understand why. They are genuinely just weird. From descriptions of them having foot-long saber claws, to them being one of the most exotically beautiful abhuman races, to like them just being a human head on a cat body in that one video. I think it's genuinely kind of cool how weirdly diverse all the rumors around them stem. Hell, something I actually had a decent laugh about earlier was that, well, the planet they come from is just a guy's name. The planet's name is literally just Carlos McConnell, which is, I don't know, weird Mexican Irish infusion there, which is interesting, which, okay, cool. But the felinids are only on this planet to the Imperium's knowledge, and thus are incredibly rare to see, but considering they are an accepted abhuman strain, I don't know, it just kind of strikes me as out of the ordinary. I guess it is especially interesting to see them get accepted when they are so incredibly niche. Normally the Imperium just firebombs things like this and then the problem kind of solves itself. Regardless, if I had to guess what they looked like, I'm gonna let my internet boomer show here and say that I think they probably resemble the Kilrathi from Wing Commander. No, not the movie ones. Those are weird. I feel like they would probably look like that, considering the era that they came from would be, on point with them being brought up and being cat people. I know a lot of people want them to be anime cat women, but no, I don't think that that's it. But regardless, this is kind of the list we see abhumans in. There are some minor variants, but ones that are literally just people who got stuck in clone vats for a little bit longer for specific wars so that they can fight harder. I mean, we could also talk about the new men that Fabius Bile made, but that's a topic for another time. I could stretch the definition of an abhuman for as much as I want or as little as I want and do something like add Space Marines or Custodes and be like, hey, yo, these guys are technically abhumans because they are a sustainable subspecies of human that we accept as part of our race, but are actually genetically different. But with that being said, I want you to look dead in the eyes of a Flesh Terror initiate that just walked in that he shares the same classification as an ogryn. Now go ahead, it would be funny, I promise. What the f*** are they, ogryns? Before we wrap up, I do want to discuss something I feel not a lot of people talk about, and that's the difference between these abhumans and chaos mutants, or at least semi-stable mutations brought on by direct exposure to the warp. Like, at what point do you consider a navigator a chaos spawn more so than a stable strain of abhuman? Is it when they grow gills, flippers, and have to survive in water and also have tentacles? Apparently not, because that's just your navigator, I guess. Or is it when they begin to bleed from the eyes routinely? I don't know. The name of the game here is if it's stable more in temperament than anything else. If the Imperium could supercharge mutant ogryns to do field work with scythes and not expect them to rampage at the slightest invocation of the name of some dark god, then you can bet they would. And plus, ogryns with crab claws, it's kind of cool. I don't know, I feel like it'd be kind of fun, but I guess changing clothes would be a bit tricky to deal with. The reception of individuals from the Imperium involving abhumans is usually because they just don't trust that level of instability. With good reason for some, like with beastmen, it's actually stated in The Son of the Forest that they have a weirdly good ability to interpret the desires and whims of chaos as well as conducting chaos rituals. Just they have a natural inclination to that kind of paganistic magic. Albeit, they don't really have the ambitions or desire to accomplish much more than the age-old ultraviolence. To the credit, they do it well, but the Imperium has such a massive prejudice against all the abhumans because, well, mutation does tend to grab a lot of them, and with an ogryn, all they have to do is, like, flop on you and you die horribly. So, you know, dog bites man, no story. Man bites dog, story. It's just, you know, the fact that there is a difference there that's important. Fun fact, though, in fantasy, and therefore probably also in 40k, rattlings, or at least halflings in fantasy, are resistant to chaos corruption. It's a reference to the Lord of the Rings, as hobbits were able to resist the temptation of the One Ring more so than other races just because of their simplistic living style, but I thought it was cool. But it also highlights the hypocrisy of the Imperium to have these things that could potentially resist chaos more than anybody else, because I don't think chaos rattlings were ever a thing. Maybe chaos just doesn't care about the little fellas. But yeah, they are really cool, they provide good food and good firepower, and are still treated like shit. Same with ogryns. Ogryns are treated like actual garbage, though a bit more behind their backs, because, I mean, if you piss off an ogre, there isn't much of a thing you can do about them ripping your head off, other than squirm, I guess. Not known for their higher brain functions and whatnot. Hell, beastmen, some do remain loyal to the Imperium. They are just treated as meat shields so often that maybe becoming the pawn of chaos is just key to a better life, which in a lot of cases isn't factually incorrect, it just probably means they're going to be living a shorter life. I think the Imperium slicing off its nose despite its face here is a bit short-sighted, but I think that's why 40k is so special. The prejudice, the idea that we will always find people to put down so that we can elevate our own station, the imperialism of it all is very interesting to me. It's a running gag between me and my friends that, like, I am so uninvolved with any political sphere in the real world, but in any kind of fictional setting, I'm always deeply interested in fictitious politics. I love A Song of Ice and Fire, the book series. It's kind of crazy. So seeing these kinds of ideas play out in a fictitious setting, I find so interesting. It's such a grimdark setting that tells these kinds of incredibly dark stories that I think are pretty fun. I've been getting back into reading a lot of Imperial Guard stories lately too, and this shit right here, kinda kino. It's peak, actually. But what do you all think about the various abhumans of the Imperium? Love them, hate them, have a favorite? I love the Bulgrins personally, even though they're just an ogryn with a chip in his head. And I just think the Bulgrin head sculpt in the plastic kit that has the mustache and goatee combo, I like that guy. He's pretty cool. I'm a simple creature, what can I say? Let me know in the comments, as always. And you know, all the other stuff, like and subscribe, as it does help the video out. And special thanks to my channel members. With your help, I can do these videos for a living. And be perfectly safe knowing I won't die of starvation. So thank you for everything you do to support. And thanks once again for watching. Till next time, I hope you all have a wonderful night.